Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready to play well here. Today, a little bit of a Jeume showcase. I built her yesterday, got her full affinity with a handful of units. If you want to know why affinity is important, link in the description below. If you want to know more about Jeume in particular, also have a character review for her in the description below as well. But I had her fully maxed with a couple espers, fully built EX, and now I'm testing her on our new Guild Wars map with a whole bunch of different synergies to see what works. Now, this showcase not indicative of anything really conclusive. It's only day one of the map, so people are still optimizing. Obviously, so there's some elements of randomness and luck as well, but this is basically just to give you a high-level look at what she's capable of and what the win cast can do in such a way that maybe you may not have seen it before. So my personal attack comp, now just some context here, I am part of WOTV, we're a top 5 guild here, and we are seeing a ton of light meta at the top of the game. That's always been the case, maybe some dark here and there. I've heard that on the lower side of the ladder there's a lot more earth involved, so I do have an earth showcase we'll get to in a second here, but I've essentially made this comp to counter a lot of magic heavy teams that we see around our guild wars. So Jeume is not necessarily a magic tank by definition, but can certainly built as such. I like Leela a lot for this map because of the flat land overall for the arithmetician, and the middle area is a height of 3, which is great for some of her abilities. And then I'm a huge fan of Varouche. I think he's the most slept on character for the light meta, where he's just an absolute monster against what Elena and Jaden like to do, and we're going to see that. So if you're looking at what this build is, I have the near luck, near card on Jeume because there's spirit for the party. It's got luck, which increases their accuracy. It's also got some things to do with crit rate, and overall I think relatively good stats for the team. And then Typhon for the accuracy and the magic here, and then Black Rosalina for the agility boost for the party as well. Pretty standard for what you might expect for attacking a light comp. So there's 4 comps that I'm going to be showcasing today. The first comp is your typical Elena, Jaden, Engelbert. Really hard comp to get through. The second one is a slight tweak on the light cast, where it's going to be Elena, Jaden, and Yuna, where there's a lot more just re-raise and heals and things of that nature. The third one is going to be our new look at the lightning cast, where we have Ibarra, Cloud, and Charlotte. And then finally, an earth comp that I whipped up together that's a former macro of ours, but again, not really maximized for this map, so probably not the best indication of what you might see, but it's just a rough estimate of what you should expect, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. And I did only one small tweak on my attack comp for the earth comp because it's just so vastly different than the others. But I used the same attack comp on the first 3 comps that you're seeing here, and we're going to see it in action. So this very first comp is versus the Elena, Jaden, Engelbert comp. And my rotation is essentially, and you'll see this happen every time, Leela will use the Black Rosalina TMR. Here's Jeume's first ability where she generates hate and then the protected shell. Varouche has this great regen ability that also gives him a magic shield of 3500 HP, which is incredibly powerful. Really only dispelled if Jaden uses his limit break here. This is a hyper evasive light comp, so that's why you see Jaden use Luel's TMR there to start. You'll have to forgive me for some of the blocked text here. Some notifications came through that I didn't want to. But either way, essentially same idea. Elena gives herself courage. They continue to move up. Swift and defense is her Jeume's TMR that gives her the defense and spirit buff. This is another great ability by Varouche where crit rate up. It also gives him spirit slash attack up. Overall, a really good ability for him in the context of the meta. Jaden's going to come here and attack him. 2170 on a critical hit, not bad at all, and he's going to regen some of that health on his next turn. Leela comes in, smacks Engelbert for about half his health, and then there's some really great things that I think Varouche does in addition to his just general build that you'll see in a second here, where Jeume comes in, Air and Scissor, unit attack resistance down. He's going to come here, Slate Wiper, super important. Slate Wiper is a great ability that unfortunately didn't work there, where if a critical hits, it will remove buffs. So technically, if that was a crit hit on Engelbert, it would have removed his hate. Very important to potentially keep in mind when you're looking at a comp like this. So Elena's going to come in here now, and she's going to limit break on the 2 of them. But you'll remember that Leela has a shield on her from the TMR activation. Retribution, decent amount of damage. Jeume is pretty darn low. But that's the benefit of Leela on a map like this, and theoretically Ayaka could do the same. Anti-Evil, that's okay. She ends up still hitting an evasive Elena anyway because of what I have for vision cards and whatnot. Slate Wiper comes in again, removes some of the buffs, and then we're getting the healing that you'll see here on the height 3, which really powerful overall. Elena's going to come here again. Takes that hit like a champ. No problem with the accuracy so far, and hopefully shouldn't, given what I have for vision cards and for equipments. So Jeume dies here. That's fine. A little bit of RNG here. This isn't meant to be a guaranteed win. 3-0. It's not domination, but literally a showcase of how they perform against the meta. And to that end, I think it's pretty darn good. You saw how many hits that Jeume was able to take, both from Engelbert and Elena in terms of chaining. There's some healing there. There's a lot of mitigation and shield and regens. things going on there where Jeume, quite frankly, gets her slash resistance up every single time that she gets hit by Elena. So overall, I think a relatively great showcase against a really top tier meta comp. When we look at the second fight here against Yuna, obviously way more sustained because there's more heals, there's re-raise, there's a whole bunch of things that Yuna does that Engelbert doesn't, quite frankly. And this is pretty standard for what you might expect for an opening turn rotation. You're going to see the same thing here on the win side, where this is her hate generating ability, also gives her Protect and Shell. Vrouge, same thing, Magic Shield and Regen. Now this light defense is obviously anticipating a light attack, so that bar light's pretty useless against what I have to offer, but that's fine. Magic Shot takes it pretty well. Fortunately, procs Regenerator, not always going to happen, but happily will restore some of her HP. Swift Wind defense again, that's the TMR to buff the defense and spirit. Vrouge is going to come in here. Slate Wiper, it is a critical hit, so it removes all buffs, which essentially removes her Stella Artois, or Stella Artois, however you want to pronounce that. Re-raise goes on the Elena. Leela's going to be a little conservative there, heal herself. Totally fine. I'd rather her live than die. Shaming Thrust takes it like a champ. Elena comes in here against Vrouge. Literally no problem against Elena. Dance the Whirlwind. That gives her unit attack resistance up, so now she's got 25 unit resistance. Misses on Elena, no big deal, not the end of the world. And goodbye. 8,600 damage to Jaden. Now we're going to see Elena come in here, use her Limit Break on Jeume. Barely a problem at all. Vrouge comes in here. Now, one of the things I unfortunately hate about him, he seems to like to physical attack a lot rather than use some of his buffs. Like, I have bells on him, and he won't use bells for a reason that I haven't quite figured out yet. But takes a magic attack, pretty okay. High 3 Kira, again, that pocket on Jeume is really great because her resistances ramp up as the battle goes on. So being able to make sure she doesn't die and maintain those resistances is really important. Yuna's just going to come in here. It's basically just a game of sustain at this point. Leela got a ton of accuracy, 6,700 damage, no problem. Slate Wiper from behind, it's awesome, removes buffs from Yuna. There's still some re-raise, obviously, on Elena, not the end of the world. And this is actually a great showcase because you're going to see what happens here. We proc Aeon Bond on Yuna. Smack her down. No problem anyways. For the third battle here, we're going against the Lightning comp that has the Ibarra. Again, I have not tweaked anything on this attack comp. I'm just throwing it at the whatever defense comes my way. So same opening rotation. Charlotte does attract wall turn 1. That's pretty standard. Ibarra, Fall of the Night. This is her absolutely amazing turn 1 buff. Cloud doing soldiers on her, which regenerates AP upon critical hit. Leela usually can't do anything turn 2, unfortunately, because I have Shell disabled. She just gets too spammy with it for my liking, and quite frankly, Jeume doesn't need it because she already has Shell, so wasted turn, but that's okay. Quick side note, when a character doesn't act on their turn, technically they don't lose as much CT, so that just means Leela's going to get a second turn faster, or third turn faster, which I'm fine with. So Charlotte uses her Protect Shell Regen ability. Ibarra uses the Black Rose Elena TMR here. Cloud comes into the Barrage. Decent amount of damage, but nothing I'm terribly afraid of. High 3 Cure, like no big deal, like it never happened. Jeume comes in here. Storm the Rend is an agility down. I personally like that ability just to kind of even the agility game, particularly against the light cast who's super, super fast. I love this limit break on Vrouge. It's basically a guaranteed paralyze on whoever it hits. So now Charlotte's going to get paralyzed. Proc Spirit up, no big deal. But Cloud, goodbye. Charlotte's obviously great magic tank, so takes that like a champ. This is Ibarra's limit break, which is frankly fantastic. 38% lightning imperil and a bunch of stat debuffs as well. Charlotte actually gets through the paralyze, is going to use her limit break here, so this is going to give her a pretty enormous defense and spirit buff. Doesn't do much offensively, but that's okay. That's not the point of the limit break. But at least gets a unit resistance down here now. Leela's going to keep them up with her curative spells. Vrouge is going to come in here, Bamboo Splitter. Bam. CT up, so he's going to get a quicker turn on the next one. And at this point, it's kind of a battle of attrition. Again, not necessarily min-maxed for what we're seeing here, so Jeume's going to die here. No big deal, because Leela does have full life, which is going to use here. Vrouge using regular attack rather than bells. I kind of hate that. He ends up dying here. No big deal. Again, not optimized. This is just throwing a comp at another one, seeing what happens. Full life. and she's back at 100%. I do need to check if she retains her resistances of being hit so many times. I would imagine she does, but need some testing on that. Leela's just going to keep spamming like a champ here. Absolute MVP. That middle ground is really great, again, for the Arithmeticians. Even opposite the high ground there is great for Arithmeticians because it is all still height 1 and she can attack right through it. Procs the reflex there. No big deal that Leela misses. She's going to get on the next turn anyway. Ibarra goes twice in a row, and one more attack. 6,000 damage. Good night. Overall, pretty impressed. I'm pretty happy with that. And then finally, for this Earth attack comp, I had to make one slight tweak on the attack side because, again, as I mentioned, this comp was made specifically for really magic-oriented comps. I made really primarily 3 switches, and only 3 switches. The first one was subbing out the more magical or spirit-oriented armor for the Brigandine on both the Varouche and Jeume, where it's area resistance and a lot of defense. So Earthcast isn't known for the magic, so I would never bring magic-oriented gear to that battle to begin with. And the second one is that I subbed out the vision card of the Nier sub-card, because I don't need the spirit from that card anymore. Overall, I'd rather have the downtime, which has the slash resistance and the extra HP for the comp overall. That's really the only tweaks. This is the same comp otherwise. So if you're watching again, this is not an optimized Earth attack by any means. I just wanted to do something that was relatively competitive just to kind of showcase the health values, general accuracy, things of that nature. So same opening rotation of the wind units. This ability is semi-useless here on Varouche because no one's going to be doing magic attacks. But regen is still nice. Obviously helps Leela potentially DPS or cure. Little couple Keenblade shenanigans here to ensure that Zazan gets re-raised. Leela's still out of range to use any of her abilities. Totally fine. Just means she'll go quicker. Defense and Spirit up here, same as the other rotations. Bruce is going to come in here. Again, great ability, even for the slash attack up and the crit rate up, even though they don't necessarily need the Spirit. Absolutely just devastating amount of damage on Zazan. Taunting Blade, no big deal. This is obviously going to be a massive attack from Oberyn on the limit break. It is going to kill Leela. Oh, it almost kills Leela. Fortunately not. Hits Zazan. He gets re-raised, no big deal. That's the Luel TMR. In a perfect world, she'd buff teammates with it, but she's really the evade unit that I'm more focused with. Zazan, obviously, to some degree, but height 3 Kira. At that point, Zazan's already out of AP. This is going to be a pretty awesome attack from Oberyn. This brings agility down. I like that ability just for the sake of utility from the tank. Train Flurry takes like an absolute champ. Slash damage, no problem at all. Varouche, Slate Wiper, is going to miss, but that's fine. He kills Oberyn because of it, and then 7,000 damage to Fred. So overall for the Earth comp, I mean, again, you could probably do a bunch of different Earth comps optimized way differently, but you're seeing attacks there of 7,000 to 9,000 in terms of what they're taking for damage, and for what we're taking for damage, the showcase is really for Jeume, and Jeume is an absolute stellar tank in this instance that like nothing phases her whatsoever. So that's my Jeume showcase in a nutshell. Again, really some snapshot fights to get an idea of what you should expect. Maybe some inspiration to dabble in using some units that you may not have thought of otherwise, and really just to get an idea of what their general movement and agility is in comparison to some of what you're seeing on the other mono element comps. So hopefully this was insightful. You enjoyed this. Comments, critiques, questions all below, and I appreciate you watching, and look forward to doing more for everybody. So have a good day, and I'll talk to you all soon.